All right, I'll open up the meeting. Do you want me to read the statement first after the call to order?
Yes, please.
Okay. Call to order and introductions. So you'll do the roll call, Charlie?
Yep. So Abington, Avon, Bridgewater, Brockton. I think Rob May's on.
And Danielle.
Danielle.
Mhm.
Duxbury, East Bridgewater, Easton,
Dave Field is here.
Halifax, Hanover, Hanson, Kingston, Pembroke, Stoughton. I think John's on. Joe Scardino signing on as well. Plimpton, Plymouth, Whitman,
Here.
Here.
West Bridgewater. Okay, yep, that's the community, so. I don't know if there's
All
anybody
right,
else.
I'd like.
Yep.
Move on to item 2, public comments. Do I hear any public comments? All right, at this time, I'm going to read the accessibility statement in Title 6, non-discrimination statement. This meeting is accessible to people with disabilities. Microphones or telephones will be used by all speakers. Large print materials are available upon advance request. If you would like either of these accommodations, please contact Mary Waldron at 508-583-1833, extension 202. The notice of non-discrimination rights and protections to beneficiaries with regard to the federal Title VI/non-discrimination protections and the state non-discrimination protection is posted on this meeting room and is available on the Old Colony Planning Council website. Please contact Mary Waldron at 508-583-1833, extension 202 for more information. Thank you. And at this time, I'd like to take a moment of silence for
Oh my God.
Dottie Fuginetti's dad, Fred Bates, who recently passed, and James Hadfield. And Charlie, I think you know a little more about James.
Jim was a transportation planning manager at Serpide. He had also been a city planner for the city of New Bedford as well. But I'd worked with Jim since 1992, and it's first class, and always a go-to person, and he loved what he did, and he loved friends and family as well. But
And I know that Dottie's father was very active in the community, and I read a little online about him, and he will be sorely missed. If we could take that moment of silence now. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it. Okay, next item is to consider the approval of the September 3rd, 2020 JTC meeting minutes. Do I have a motion on the floor?
So moved by Whitman. Dan.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 4, communications, and that would be Sean?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, very good. There are only a handful of items in the communications packet for this month. The first is the iWalk on October 7th. If you would like to register, you may click on the link in the staff report, which we can provide for you after this meeting. The next item is the Pumpkin Spice Up Your Day Safe Routes to School Virtual Fall Summit on October 28th. The summit is limited to 100 attendees, so please click on the link if you would like to register for this event. The next item is the 2020 Moving Together Conference. They will still be having it. It will just be done virtually because of COVID. Registration and session information coming soon. Please click on the link for more information. And lastly is FEMA's Hazard Mitigation Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities Grant Program. To apply for a grant, you must complete a statement of interest form by October 16th, and you can find the link in this document. And if you have any questions, please reach out to the MEMA mitigation team at the email address listed at the bottom of this document. And
Does anyone have any questions for Sean? All righty, hearing none, I got to move on to item 5, which is reports. Our first item is BAT. Is Glenn available?
I am here, Chairperson, Mike Lambert.
Okay, Mike.
I'm happy to report that our workforce is healthy and we're running a full schedule. We continue to monitor ridership very carefully to ensure that there's no overcrowding on the buses and that customers feel and are safe. Currently, we're running about, we're hovering around 50% of ridership that we saw last year at this time. This past weekend, we started Sunday service between Brockton and Stoughton by way of Bel Air Tower and Sullivan Tower in the mall. And we have high hopes for the success of that service. And then finally, as this group knows, BAT along with Pioneer Valley Transit Authority were the first 2 RTAs to introduce mobile ticketing early last month. And we continue to see sort of record uptake of that every day that it is available. Happy to answer any questions that may be out there.
Thank you, Mike. I'm hearing none. I got to move on to item 5B, which is GATRA, Greater Attleboro Taunton Transit Authority, and that would be Paul.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Welcome.
Just like to bring you some new and interesting news from our other transit authority in our planning region, GATRA. GATRA right now is slowly bringing back service as we speak. One new thing that they have embarked upon is a new micro transit program in the South Plymouth area. For those who are aware of South Plymouth, it has been an issue in regards to public transportation because, as we all know, Plymouth is a vast town with a lot of territory to cover, so it makes it very hard to provide service to certain sections of the community, and that being the south section of the town because of its vastness and low density. So when you operate transit in there, it takes a long time for a bus to get in and back to the main downtown area of Plymouth. So utilizing new technologies offered by TransLogic, GATRA and their partner there have embarked upon establishing a micro transit program. And what this micro transit is, it's going to be an on-demand transportation request system. So let's say you are down in, I think it's the Pine Hills is a community down in South Plymouth. You can request a trip and then the bus will come and pick you up at your location and transport you to the other parts that are within that service boundary. So it's new technology. It's very cool. It's providing a lot of transit options for those residents in South Plymouth, especially those who have mobility challenges. So it gives them a great opportunity to transport people in that section, something that's been voiced as being a need for quite some time. So this is exciting news from our other transit authority in the region.
Anyone have any questions for Paul? Hearing none, I'm going to move on to item 5C, which is the South Coast Rail Project. That would be Paul again.
Thank you again, Madam Chair. So South Coast Rail is moving along quite nicely. I mean, much of the work that's taken place along the line is in the South Coast region of our Commonwealth. So there's not much construction or other things going on up in our region. But those construction projects and everything will affect us once the commuter rail line goes online for the potential launch day of next year. So currently they're establishing the brand new stations, 4 in total, So there's renderings and everything that you can view online through the South Coast Rail Project website. And you can see what these potential new stations would be like. The closest station to our region would be the Middleborough station, which is going to be a new station to facilitate the transfer from the New Bedford Fall River line to the Old Colony line. So trains can reach Boston. So there's a track work going on there. The stations are being established along with the layover facilities, which will be key in order to run the line. And then also a lot of the networking and other infrastructures that will be key, like for example, positive train control is being worked on and established to make sure the line is ready for operation. I was just part of a presentation about the status of the line. You can find the presentation attached as an addendum to this this JTC write-up, and you guys can read a little bit more. So a lot of good news going down in the southernmost portion of the South Coast Rail line. Super exciting. Any questions?
Thank you, Paul.
You're welcome, Madam Chair.
I'm going to move on to item 6, which is under old business, the FFY 2021 to 2025 TIP program implementation. Charlie?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. So the new tip begins today. So we're in the 21 to 25. What I'll do is spotlight the projects in 2021 as those are on deck now for the next 12 months to finish their design, permitting, and right-of-way certificates, and then be advertised by MassDOT for construction bids by the end of this coming federal fiscal year. And then I'll spotlight any project updates that we have, and we have one later on. So in 21, we have first project is Avon intersection improvements at Harrison Boulevard and Pond Street. So good news here is it's at the plan specifications and estimate stage, so it's very far advanced in the design stage. That's really good news, and the cost estimate is about $5 million.
Wow.
Project number 2 is in Easton. That's the Depot Street corridor, reconstruction from Newell Circle to Route 138. And equally good news with this project is it's at the plant specifications and estimate stage. So it's, though we're only on day 1 of the new federal fiscal year, it's great news to hear that this is at that design stage as well. And the cost estimate for this project is about $10.5 million. And last but not least, in Stoughton, we have the Safe Routes to School project at the Richard Wilkins Elementary School. And it's good to see that the 100% design plans came in early last month, and a design public hearing was held back in June. So that's great news on all 3 projects, that they're in such an advanced stage of design. But that's what we had for specific project updates, and a spotlight on Federal 21. If anybody has any questions, I can pan through the rest of the projects. In 2022, there's Avon, Stoughton, pavement preservation on Route 24. Again, advanced stage of design, that's at 100%. Project number 2 is intersection improvements at Center, Carrie, and Lyman Street, and that's at pre-25% design, but certainly moving ahead in the design process. Project number 3 is in Pembroke, Route 36, reconstruction from Route 27 to Route 14, and this project is also in an advanced stage of designs, plan specifications, estimate. So that's good news, and the cost estimate on this one is about $10 million. In FY 2023, in Brockton, the first project is Route 123 at Plymouth Street, signalization and geometric improvements, and that's at the kind of the pre-25% design. We expect the 25% design to come in October, and I understand that the consultant is having a comment resolution meeting with stakeholders next week. Project number 2 is in Stoughton. That's corridor improvements on Route 138, and this is we're advanced constructing this over 2 tip years, so this is phase 1 of 2 parts, and the cost estimate here is $5.2 million. The third project is in Stoughton. It's the intersection improvements and related work at Central Canton and Tosca Drive. It's currently unsignalized, and the concept here is to provide geometric improvements and provide signalization. And the currently at 75% design, and the cost estimate is about $3.8 million. Moving on to 2024, the first project is a bridge replacement of Plimpton, and that's in the preliminary design stage, and cost estimate is approximately $2.2 million. And the last but not least, in 2024 is phase 2 of this advanced construction project in Stoughton, corridor improvements on 138, and this cost estimate on phase 2 is $8.1 million. And then rounding out the 5 years of the TIP, we have 3 projects, the first being Abington intersection improvements at Hancock and Chestnut Street. And I believe the preferred concept on this one is to install a roundabout, and the cost estimate is just shy of $3 million. Project number 2 is in Brockton. That's the Crescent Street project in vicinity, and essentially what this is Summer at Grove Street intersection improvement projects and replacing the Grove Street Bridge, and this project is currently at 25% design, and the cost estimate is approximately $4.9 million. And then rounding out 2025 is a project in Duxbury. That's a signalization at Route 3 northbound and southbound ramp at Route 3A. That's exit 10 in Duxbury, and cost estimate is approximately $2.8 million. So, you know, a wide complement of projects and multiple projects moving ahead in the design process early in the TIP. So that's great news, and my compliments to the communities and MassDOT and consultants for moving these projects forward.
Thank you, Charlie. Does anyone have any questions about the TIP implementation? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to move forward to 7, new business. A is the road safety audits at multiple locations study. 2021 UPWP, and I think that would be Bill?
Yep. Thank you, Madam Chair. So
Welcome.
today is the first day of our new federal fiscal year. So Happy New Year to everyone. So we, as such, we have a new work program loaded with some exciting new projects that I'm going to talk about one, and my colleagues are going to talk about a couple of others in the next agenda items. But this one is road safety audits at multiple locations throughout the region. So, you know, in the past, you know, our UPWP, we've always done, you know, you typically do a corridor study or 2 corridor studies usually. This year we're doing a little bit different project. We're looking at our safety management system. So, and we're going to look at high crash locations throughout the region. So our safety management system each year, we maintain a top 100 most hazardous intersections list, and that's based on a weighted value called the EPDO, which stands for the equivalent to property damage only value. So that's a weighted value that assigns weight to a crash depending on the severity. So a crash that results in a fatal injury that will receive 10 points in the system. A crash that results in a non-fatal injury is 5, a value of 5, and then a crash that is property damage only is a value of 1. So it gives us a system of evaluating intersections, not just on the volume of crashes, but on the severity level as well. So this is a data-driven process, a systematic process. So we're looking at these intersections and determining where we're going to do these road safety audits. We're going to be doing at least 15 locations in the region. We're coordinating with MassDOT to see what locations they'll be doing, because they as well have a systematic approach in their highway safety program. And so making sure we don't overlap our efforts. Right now, we're in the process of finalizing the locations that have not received any sort of investment in the past decade, whether it be improvements or a study or projects that aren't currently in the pipeline for the tip. Those are locations that are going to receive priority. And so once we have a finalized list of locations, we'll be reaching out to the communities themselves and starting to schedule these road safety audits. They'll be spaced fairly evenly throughout the program year, which starts today and then will end next September 30th. Each road safety audit will have its own individual report. So in the past, a lot of our UPWP studies have, had this one big report at the end of the program year. So this is a little bit different. Each audit will have its own report, and these reports will be produced throughout the year. The next steps in the next couple of weeks, we'll be reaching out to the communities with the list of locations that we plan to do. We'll come back to this committee next month with a list, and we'll provide regular updates to this committee as well as to the MPO and to the Old Colony Planning Council Board. I don't know if anyone has any questions, so happy to answer them.
Thank you so much, Bill.
Thanks, Madam Chair.
Moving on to item 7B, Active Transportation Study 2021 UPWP, and that would be Paul.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Very excited to announce that we'll be embarking upon another active transportation study this coming UPWP year. Before it was named active transportation, it was our bicycle and pedestrian plan that we would do for the region. It's a couple of years old now since we've done the last one. So we're about to embark on a new one and once again, review the Old Colony region to seeing how we can improve bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure to not only encourage recreational trips, but to use the bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure network for utility purposes as well. So, commuting to work, going for local shopping trips and such. I'm happy to report we have a wide-ranging menu of new data sources now. The Commonwealth has a really good team up at MassDOT in Boston that has been collecting data on behalf of the statewide bike and pedestrian plan. So we have quite the collection of data resources being offered by the state. The Old Colony Planning Council recently got access to Strava Metro data. Strava is it's really an athlete's tool, but for over a decade, they've been tracking the movement of those who walk, run, and bike in regions across the globe. And so now they have a really large data set of how people are moving and acting in a particular given region. And so we've been granted access to use those data so we can actually look at our region and seeing how many people are actually biking and walking down a particular corridor. And that is actual data, actual people, because their GPS signature is that they've offered to give up on their own accord has been logged. So we can actually see, let's say, for example, going down Brockton and Belmont Street, how many people are traveling that corridor by bike or ped. So this is a really powerful data set. And just skimming through it the other day, surprising information I got that we will be including in our report as we get more into it is that a lot of cyclists, especially on the weekends, are coming from outside our region. So they're biking into our region and through it. And so that's some really interesting information because especially when it comes to, like, for example, recreational cyclists, which tend to have higher median incomes when we look at their household income dollars. This is potential, economic growing money that could come into our region and into our communities. So how, it'll be something to look at how we can tap into these individuals that are passing and traveling through our region and try to get them to come into our downtown or our shopping districts and spend some money. So with that said, it's going to be a very interesting thing. We're going to be looking at it all through the lens of connectivity and public health as well. And so it's going to be a very nice study to have this coming year. And I'll take questions from anyone that would be interested in asking any questions.
Thank you, Paul.
Mhm.
I'm going to move on to item 7C, climate change, vulnerability, transportation assessment, 2021, UPWP, and that would be Ray.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The purpose of the climate change vulnerability transportation assessment is to update a 2010 OCPC climate change transportation impact study. But it's also to identify impacts of climate change on our transportation system. We want to examine them and assess the vulnerability of the system, and also to develop strategies for management and mitigation. So we're building on previous studies like the climate change impact study that we did in 2010, but we're also building on other studies like stormwater mapping and roadway drainage runoff, hazard mitigation, and municipality vulnerability plans that we've been producing. So our timeline is from October 2020 to September 2021. And we are have a public outreach element that includes public meetings as well as consulting with federal, state partners and local officials, highway departments and planners and conservation commissions, and also organizations such as Jones River Watershed Association, Taunton River Watershed Association. So our study area is the region, but there are impacts that are outside our region, like the Taunton River Watershed. So we have to take those into consideration. So some of our oceans comes from the land and it comes from the rivers. However, if your road runs by a reservoir that you use for drinking or a well that is within 100 feet, then it's going to have an impact, and it'll make your wells more salty, and it'll affect elderly people who have hypertension. It could affect them. So this is based on a 20-year study that was done 20 years ago. So things have changed, but we could definitely include that as part of as a subsection. I don't see why not. And that would be interesting for me to see how things have changed, if any, in over the years, because salt is sodium chloride, and sodium and chloride both separate. They separate when they percolate, when they're thrown on the road, and the water and the soluble in water. But sometimes the sodium and the chloride separate, and those are toxic to humans. Together, sodium and chloride is just salt, but outside they're toxic. The alternatives that they use are I'm trying to remember. There are you can go to Home Depot and you can get alternatives to salt. I think it's calcium chloride.
Meeting anybody there from Whitman?
I think so.
Yep. So calcium chloride and some other. They do have some other substitutes for salt, but per ton, salt is the cheapest. So the DPWs keep going back to salt because it's the cheapest per ton. The impact, there is an impact, but you can control the impact. But if you do have a reservoir or drinking water that's near your road, then you really have to be careful with salt. So
yeah, that was one of my concerns, why I brought it up. Thank you.
Ray, Joe Scardino, I have apropos of this, what happened the other day, will you be reaching out to utility companies and that operate in our area to get them to do a much better job at tree trimming around power lines? I think that I have property myself that borders on a right-of-way, and I was told they're supposed to clear that right-of-way every 3 years. Sometimes it's 7 to 10 years before I see crews out cleaning it. I think this is one of the deferred maintenance issues that is not properly being addressed by the utility companies. And so I guess I'd like to see your study reach out to those utility companies and get more accountability for them on, because what ends up happening, of course, is our roads are no longer permeable because trees are all over the place, like they were this week.
Yeah, that's a very good issue. When it comes to high winds, if they don't take care of those trees and we get high winds, it's going to impact the community. So we'll definitely reach out to the utility companies, and that's a very good good point right there. So.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other comments or questions for Ray? Thank you, Ray. Great presentation.
You're welcome.
I'm going to move on to 8, which is other business, the local technical assistance studies, and I think that would be Bill.
Yep, thank you, Madam Chair. So I have a brief update. Some new projects that have been received in the past month. So the town of Abington, they've requested a traffic study for Summit Road, which runs in between Route 18 and Route 139. And all of these studies will be doing data collection this fall. Avon requested a traffic study for West Main Street at South Street and School Street, that intersection. City of Brockton, that traffic committee has requested we do a traffic signal warrant analysis for Warren Avenue at Market Street, and we'll be coordinating with the school system as well, because there's a school on the corner that heavily dominates traffic in that area. The traffic flow in and out of the school is a major component of the overall traffic pattern in that area, so we were coordinating with them. Town of Halifax has requested that we do a multi-way stop signal warrant analysis at 2 intersections on Hillside Avenue. They're immediately adjacent to each other, Hillside at 10th Street and Hillside at 11th Street. So we're doing that. And the town of Kingston requested traffic data for Route 3A to study the potential impacts of site development. We actually already had the data for that, so we sent that to the town, and that's actually been completed. So anyone in your staff report on the screen contains an update of all the projects that we're working on. So if anyone has any questions, happy to answer them.
Thank you, Bill.
Thanks, Madam Chair.
I'm going to move on to 8B, which is the ENFs, EIRs, and MPCs. And I think that would be Kyle.
Yep. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome.
So we have 3 new ENFs submitted as of September 30th. First one is for Duxbury Beach Nature-Based Storm Damage Protection Project. And that one, the Duxbury Beach Reservation applied for and received a coastal zone management grant in fiscal year 20 for the amount of about $132,000. And that's to fund field data collection, alternatives analysis, and initial permitting. And that project will include 4 key components. Component 1 is oceanside beach and dune nourishment. Component 2 is bayside erosion control. Component 3 is flood vulnerability reductions along roadway. And the 4th component is Powder Point Bridge abutment area erosion control. And the second project is in Kingston, the Sylvia Pond Estates. And that's going to be a construction of a 650-foot long roadway that'll service 4 new single-family dwellings. And those homes will be serviced by individual driveways, site grading lawns, and on-site subsurface septic systems. And the construction of the roadway will take approximately 6 months to build, and the 4 new dwellings will be constructed in approximately 1 year, after the base coat of the roadway is installed. The last ENF is in Stoughton for the Park Street sewer expansion, and that'll be done in phases. Phase 1 is the installing of a centralized sewer pump station located at 175 Campanelli Parkway, and that's in the Campanelli Business Park. And this pump station will service approximately 73 properties. And phase 2 is the installation of another centralized sewer pump station. That'll be at 39 South Street. That's near the Stoughton Brockton town line. And this one will service approximately 47 properties. And that'll connect into the new sewer on Park Street. That'll be done in phase 1. And then we have one certificate. That's for the Katina Way project in Abington. And that's the construction of a 2-lot single-family residential subdivision. And that states in the certificate that it does not require an EIR. And that concludes my report on the ENFs.
Anyone have any questions for Kyle on any of the projects? All righty, hearing none, I'm gonna go on to 8C, which is regional concerns and local community issues. And I want to open that up, whoever has an issue. I don't hear any. All right. Want to thank everybody and especially the OCPC staff for all the information you provide us and all the files that you put online for us while the meeting is going on. That's appreciated by all of us. And do I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second? All in favor?